Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of Tell Your Story. I'm Todd Nesloney, your host. I'm an elementary principal in Texas and also author of the book Stories from Web, that this entire podcast, web series, interview thing is based after. And it's my goal each week to bring you somebody who I have heard bits or pieces of their story or been inspired by them and the work that they're doing and give them a platform to recognize them. I am so thrilled to have special guest Bryan Skavnak on this week. Bryan, why don't you kind of tell everybody who you are?
I'm Bryan Skavnak. I don't know. I'm an author. I'm a golf pro. I'm a speaker at schools. I kind of do a lot of different things. And I like it that way. So it's kind of fun. I run Be the Nice Kid. I started that a long time ago, and now I get to go to schools a lot and just basically talk about kindness and compassion and empathy. And I do it all through story form too. So it's just, I just go in and I feel like it's kind of like a concert, but I don't know anything about music. So I just, I kind of tell stories instead.
So let's talk a little bit about Be the Nice Kid. So for those of you who may be listening or watching, I can almost guarantee that you have seen Bryan's quote or phrase that he wrote about being the nice kid. I just see it all over social media every time I turn around. But talk to me a little bit about where that was birthed from and kind of how it got to where it is now.
It started probably, if I was going to classify one day, Halloween of 2010. My mom actually got diagnosed with lymphoma, and it kind of started there, which is kind of a weird place to start. I've been a golf pro for a little more than 20 years now, so I've taught kids for a long time. And when that happened, golf kind of got thrown aside because I had a lot of other things going on, and we were thinking about what's going to happen, how do you treat this, what's going on. And 7 months later, actually, my mom passed away. The chemo didn't work. Nothing happened. And then golf really got thrown away. It was just like, I just don't want to do this anymore. I don't, there's more important things in life than a golf score and winning and losing. I just didn't care. And it wasn't that I didn't care about my students. It was that the whole meaning behind it didn't matter to me. It didn't matter if I won a tournament. It didn't matter if I got my lowest score ever. That part of it didn't matter. And so I got to talk with my dad and my brother and family members and stuff. And basically, I just wrote a story about my mom after she passed away. It was just a goofy story about when we were at Sears at a store, and she was acting like weird, and it was funny. And it was just, all it was just a dumb little story that helped me kind of vent. And instead of sending out my normal golf email like I did every week, like, hey, join a clinic, hey, come to this summer program, I sent out this story. And this story, I didn't know what was going to happen. I didn't know if people were going to like it or not, but I kind of selfishly did it for me. And it hit. And people started writing me back saying, hey, my mom's going through the same thing, or my dad just passed away, or my brother-in-law got diagnosed with this. And it was crazy kind of the response I got back. And the week after is like, hey, write another story. Hey, Bryan, write another story. Write another story. I just kind of kept writing mom stories. That's what it was. Like all summer long, it was a bunch of mom stories. And in the fall, I wrote a story to my golf students that was titled Be the Nice Kid. And all it was a story, or maybe just even a letter for these kids going back to school that said, hey, you know what? You're going back to school now. Some stuff you're going to love. Some stuff you're going to hate. Some teachers are awesome. Some not so much. Some lunches, they're great. Some lunches are like, I don't even know if that's food. But it was just this thing. And all it said was, hey, through everything, just be the nice kid. Through everything, just, help someone up. Or if they fall down, if they drop something, pick it up for them. Be respectful of your teachers. Listen, just be the nice kid. I just kept repeating that over and over again. And that was kind of the birth of it. And that quote that seems to be everywhere now was just a little part of that letter. It was just off the cuff. It was just, this is what I want you to try to do because these are the things that I think are important. And I just sent it to my golf students, and then they sent it to their friends, and they sent it to their friends, and it started circulating like crazy. And that was 8 years ago now. Mm-hmm. And so the last 2 or 3 years has been really crazy because now it seems to be everywhere. But that's what most people don't know. It wasn't that I just wrote this thing. It was just a letter to my students saying, hey, you know what? Do these things. It's important.
Yeah. So, what is it like now? I mean, to go into a school and see it painted up on a wall, because I see that all the time. People have painted it on their wall or put it on signs in their room. Or what is that kind of feeling like to see that?
It is. I mean, it's cool. It's that, I went to school today. I'm in rural Pennsylvania right now, and I went to school, and this thing that the quote was painted on their cafeteria wall, and it was 15 feet high, and it was awesome just seeing these things. I think the biggest thing, not that it's on the schools, it's just that these kids get to see it all the time, and I want it hammered home that somebody asked me at one of the schools, they said, hey, if you could give the world anything, what would you give the world? And I said, I'd give the world more confidence, because I think there's so much stuff out there that people see and they compare themselves to others, but they have to realize that everybody has that thing they're good at. Everybody has that thing they can help someone else, with. It's just hard kind of helping these kids through that. So if they see this thing every day, realize that, I don't have to be the best at everything. I don't have to be the LeBron James of everything. I can be myself too. And I just happen to be good at this thing. I can help other people, or I really like to do this thing, and hey, it might help other people too. So it's one of those things that's fun to see, but at the same time, I'm just glad that the message is going out there more.
Well, I think it's funny how you talk about how the illness and then passing of your mother led to you sharing that grief and that journey through that, which led to you leading this. And I think that is such a good reminder of when we're ready to share those emotional moments in our lives, regardless of how unique they feel to us, it opens up a floodgate of emotions, but also connection with people in ways unexpected when the sharing began.
I totally agree.
And I think, you kind of alluded to it a little bit, but, did you feel that really a lot when you first shared the journey of you and your mom, of just having people reach out to say, this means a lot to me that you shared this because I've dealt with something the same, and your journey helped me deal with my grief?
Yeah, and stuff like that is great. And because I think most people feel like when they're going through something, they feel like they're the only one. They're alone in this thing, and no one else has gone through this. No one else can help me. But once you share this thing, you realize almost tons of people have gone through this stuff, and that's what I teach the kids now. After a month or two of getting responses back after that initial mom story, I figured the key to life. I figured out the key to life. So if you want to talk about it to me, I know what the key to life now. It's vulnerability. All you have to do is be vulnerable, and you have to be willing to share these things, and they come right back at you. And you realize that it connects people. It doesn't push people apart, and you realize that people have gone through the same stuff, and we can help each other out through that now too, which is the coolest thing.
Well, I love the message of Be the Nice Kid, and I think it is such a timely message for what we're dealing with right now in our country and the things our kids are seeing all over the TV and in social media and things like that. How have you found your message really connecting with kids, especially in the last year or two?
It's been fun just to go. I go all over the U.S., talking to different schools now, and it's fun because I go to different types of schools. Some that are a little more affluent, some that are not. Some that have a lot of resources, some that are different cultures, and it's fun seeing all the kids, but you realize that the one thing that they all have in common is they all just want to be kids, and they all want to belong. They all want to find their thing. And it's been fun talking with them because, like I said, I just tell a bunch of stories, and it's stories that happened to me or through my golf classes or kids that I've known or kids that I grew up. It's just a bunch of stories, and some are goofy, some are dumb, and some are heartfelt, and some are funny, and some make you think. But it's fun telling these stories to the kids because certain kids will grasp onto certain parts of one story, and certain kids will grasp onto certain parts of another story. And so it kind of goes back to that, are you a visual learner? Are you everything across the book, that how do you learn? And I kind of teach these kids that, these stories can also help you out. And it's not one specific story that has to help.
Right.
It can be a little piece from this thing and a little piece from this thing. And once they listen to this and they kind of realize that, hey, you know what, I kind of like this, or hey, kind of what, that story was really dumb. And that's okay. And I tell them that. I'm like, if you don't like this story, I don't care. That's cool. Don't worry about it at all. I said, find a little positive piece, because there's always a positive in everything.
Is there one unique interaction that really sticks with you from the work that you've been doing with schools and kids and teachers?
I had a kid a couple of weeks ago come up to me, and I still don't know the answer to this. And he said, hey, Mr. Bryan, when did you become the nice kid? I'm like, I don't know. Like, the initial response is my parents taught me that way.
Yeah.
And then I started thinking about it, like, well, maybe it's when I kind of stopped caring what other people thought of me and I kind of found myself. Or was it when my mom passed? I don't know. And I kind of, that it was unique to me because it made me think a lot. And usually it's like, I tell a story about a chicken and the kids love the chicken story. So they always ask me about that. But when this kid came up to me, I'm like, man, that is a good question.
Yeah.
So I'll have to get back to you on that. I'll come on again once I find out my answer and I'll tell you what this is. But it was a really cool situation.
So before all this, you were a golfer.
Yeah. And I still am a golfer. Yeah.
So you still do that?
Yeah. It's the best part about this is that, school year in the US at least is from, September to about early June.
Mm-hmm.
And then my golf classes are from about April to, end of September. So it kind of fits in there perfectly. So I do a lot of local schools in Minnesota in the end of the school year and the beginning of the school year. And then I travel everywhere else throughout the rest of the school year. But yeah, I still teach golf. I love it. My golf signups actually went online today. So I've been doing that all day long and seeing who's joining this year. It's really fun.
So has golf always been a passion of yours as well?
I grew up a tennis player. So sports was a big thing in my family. We love watching sports. We like playing sports. I played tennis first. I dabbled in golf a little bit. My dad played and he wasn't very good, but he liked it. And so I started going with him. And then my biggest thing is I really love looking for golf balls in the woods. Like I still love looking for golf balls in the woods. So I'll go out there and it's like a little Easter egg hunt. And so I'll buy these golf balls and I used to sell the golf balls. That was my first job. I'd sell golf balls, make some money that way. And then I started getting into it more and more. In my sophomore year of high school, tennis and golf were both spring sports. So I had to choose one. And I was better at tennis at the time, but I liked golf more. So I chose golf. And it kind of worked out. It was one of those things where we played high school, I played in college, I graduated from college, I didn't know what I wanted to do. So I'm like, hey, I'm just going to take the playing test to turn pro and see what happens. I passed that test. I'm like, all right, I guess I'm a golf pro now. And so I had been teaching for a few years already. And I'm just going to give myself a few years to kind of build an academy and see what happens. And I lucked out and it kind of worked out.
So what do you feel like you've learned through the sport of golf for yourself?
Patience. There is, you can't beat golf. You can't ever beat the course. You're always playing against yourself. You're isolated on this little island for a long time. You have so many thoughts going through your head. When I teach now, I feel like I'm 99% psychologist and 1% golf pro, because when my students come to me, I teach kids and I teach families and beginners and stuff like that. But, what I found is when you just talk things out, you actually improve in that thing you're doing. Because most people come into golf thinking, hey, you know what? This looks really hard. This is, all my friends told me this is hard. This is what I read about. This is what I should do. And I kind of break it down from like, just try this instead. Don't worry about where it goes. Don't worry about, I tell people right away, if you're going to start playing golf, don't keep score. Just don't keep score at all. I still don't keep score. If I'm playing in a tournament, I have to, but otherwise I don't keep score. I just go out there and hang out. What most people don't know about golf or don't think about golf is that it's social. It's all social. There's this book I read a long time ago called Extraordinary Golf, and he kind of breaks it down. If you're on the golf course for 4 hours, you actually hit the golf ball for about 15 minutes of that time. Because it takes 10 seconds to get the club out of the bag, address the shot, look at it, swing. The other time is spent walking to your ball, looking for your ball, walking to the next hole. So 15 minutes out of that 4 hours, you got 3 hours and 45 minutes to do something else. And one of my first instructors taught me this. He said, you got to find some way to fill the other 345. And so it turned into social. It turned into talking about other things. I think about food when I play golf all the time. It just kind of gets my mind off stuff. It's golf. The golf swing is so little about it, but golf pros tend to teach that golf swing too much. I don't. I teach the social part and I teach the interaction. That's why I love teaching kids, because we just play a bunch of games, have a bunch of fun, give away a bunch of candy. It's awesome.
So growing up in school, what did you want to be when you grew up? What did you think you were going to be when you were younger?
I wanted to be a sports medicine doctor. Like I wanted to be on the sidelines of like an NBA team, and I wanted to tend to players. That was this kind of thing. And then I knew I kind of wanted to do some sort of business thing. After that kind of fell away. And for real, when I graduated from college, I just did not know what I wanted to do. I majored in management. I was a super crazy, quiet kid. I didn't talk till almost my senior year in high school.
And now you present all the time.
It's insane. I know. It's the craziest thing ever. And so, I mean, I had a few close friends, but I was like the in my own bubble kid that I was really afraid to say anything because I didn't want to be judged. And I felt everybody's looking at me all the time. So I didn't want to kind of speak out or say much. And I didn't. And then my college roommate, we got matched up. So one of my great friends, and he talked even less than I did. And so I'm like, all right, one of us has got to talk here. And so that kind of started me on the path of, let's do this. I always like writing and everything, but I just never like presenting it. So,
right. What would you say is probably the biggest lesson you've learned about yourself through this whole journey of the Be the Nice Kid and working with kids in schools?
Ooh, that's a good question. About myself. Realizing that I can do something that I may not have thought I could do before. That's really what I give a story that I tell these kids, mostly middle school kids, but in 8th grade, we had to give a speech, and I couldn't talk in front of classes at all. I hated it. And you had to write out your speech and do it. And you got to pick your topic. And it was this, I picked Magic Johnson, the Los Angeles Lakers, because I love basketball. And I wrote out everything on the note cards, and I got them from my 8th grade class. And I told the story about Magic Johnson, and it was brutal. I mean, it was like reading off the note. I couldn't even remember my name. It's like, my name is Bryan Skavnak, and I'm here to, it was terrible. And at the end, you got that like, nice job clap, that like pity clap. And I walked off, and my teacher came up to me and said, Bryan, I kind of like that. I'm like, you did? Really? She goes, yeah, can I enter it into a speech competition? I'm like, are you kidding me? Were you in the same room as me? That was not good. She goes, okay, it's not a competition. It's more like a showcase of all the schools around the area and what we're doing. And I said, all right, go ahead, enter it. That's fine. But what do I have to do? And she said, all you have to do is, go in front of a class of about 20, 25 kids again and give your speech, and just do that. I'm like, okay, I can do that. And so it exactly what you said. We went to the speech thing, a bunch of schools in the area. I went in the classroom, did my speech. It was terrible again. All I did was read off note cards. And at the end of it, what she didn't tell me was that the group was all going to meet in this big area afterwards, these 500 people, 500 kids from all these schools. And the moderator lady was going to choose 3 6th graders, 3 7th graders, and 3 8th graders to give their speech in front of everybody. I'm like, crap, I don't want to do that. And lady gets up there and goes, 8th grade, Bryan Skavnak. I'm like, oh, you are kidding me. So I had to give my speech in front of 500 people, and I was freaking out. I mean, like, I hated doing this. And I went up there and I just read my Magic Johnson speech, and I got the little polite clap. It was a little bit better than last time. And I sat down, I looked around, I realized that no one was booing me. No one was yelling at me. No one was saying, you are terrible, don't talk anymore. No one was doing any of that. And I realized that was kind of a step that I'm like, maybe I can actually get in front of people and do this. And I talked a little bit the next year. I give a few more speeches. In college, I choose the speech over the final test. And I think throughout all the Be the Nice Kid stuff, this is kind of a long answer to this, but I realized that this thing I never thought I could do as a kid, I'm okay at. I can actually do that thing. That fear that I had is no longer a fear. I actually love it. Right. And it's kind of just the old general get over the fear. And I got over the fear.
So do you find, I know sometimes when I talk to other speakers or people who are in this kind of environment, they still have that lingering doubt that'll creep up sometimes of, am I the right person to be sharing this message? Or is this that important? Do you find that sometimes creeping in on you as well? Or do you really feel like, nope, this is my lane, I've got this?
No, it still comes in. Yeah, it's I feel definitely a lot more confident. I feel a lot more confident presenting, telling these stories. I know the reaction I'm going to get from certain parts of stories. I know questions I'm going to get from certain parts of stories. But yeah, there's that that feeling you get up there and you're like, well, what if this story doesn't hit this time? Or what if I'm in a different, this school doesn't like this one as much? It comes in, but I also know how to flip it, where if that story doesn't hit, I can do another one. It's going to a concert and you don't hear your favorite song, but they're going to follow with the next song you're going to like. Like that's what I try to do. I compare everything to a band.
I love that. So if you were to wrap up your mission in one thought that you would want people to take away, what would that be?
Let other people be happy. That's really what it is. That's Be the Nice Kid is all about letting other people do their thing too. That everything doesn't have to bother you. You don't have to rag on people. You don't have to tease people, make fun of people. Let them be happy. If they like a certain thing, they like a certain. I had a little girl come up to me, a little first grade girl once. She said, Mr. Bryan, I like chocolate ice cream, but my friend doesn't like chocolate ice cream. Should we still be friends? I'm like, yes, you should still be friends. And here us saying that, it's like, yeah, it's ridiculous, but yeah, you should be friends. But that's what these kids are thinking of, because there's differences here. But really, just if they like something and you like something, that's great. Like different things, that's totally fine. And it's for little kids to hear that, they're like, oh, really? I can do that? Like, yeah, you can do that. It's okay.
Well, Bryan, I so admire the work that you're doing. I have loved and shared out your quote. I can't even say how many times, just because I think it is just the perfect encapsulation of what I want kids to understand, and adults. About how easy it is to be the nice kid. So I want to personally say thank you for the work that you are doing in these kids and schools' lives, and for continuing to share out some of your story, because I know that you are inspiring so many. So thank you.
Thanks. I appreciate that.
And thank you to everyone who is listening or watching today. I hope that you go on and check out Bryan on all his platforms that he's on, all the social media areas, because he shares some great content. It's a great follow. And I hope that you join us again next week with my next special guest. But I want to remind you, as you go out each and every week, the way we end every single episode is to get out there and be brave enough to tell your story, because every story matters.